With the government threatening to axe the license fee, and viewing figures on the slide thanks to the rise of services like Netflix, writer-at-large Neil Mackay asks if the national broadcaster is really fit for purpose in the 21st century. How much does the BBC really matter to you? The question isn't meant in a political way. It isn't about whether you want a left-wing or right-wing BBC, or whether you think the BBC supports or opposes your view of Brexit, Scottish independence or any other divisive issue. Nor is the question about whether you believe the BBC holds some sacred position in British society, like the NHS, or whether you want the sacred Cowes Lane. The question is posed purely in terms of the enjoyment, the worth, the value, the fun, you get from the BBC. As a consumer, a viewer, a punter, a critic, does the BBC mean much to you anymore? Long gone are the days when the BBC was basically all we had and so by default was the centre of cultural life. We're media rich now, and time poor. When you weigh the BBC, and judge it, does the broadcaster, as its founder Lord Reith promised it would do, still inform, educate and entertain you? And if it does, is the BBC doing it better than its many rivals? Our crowded broadcasting landscape means there's no longer a place for BBC exceptionalism. It has to earn its place like everyone else. Among 16 to 34-year-olds, the BBC struggles to remain relevant. Less than half of that key demographic watch it, boding ill for the future. The BBC's back is against the wall. In our increasingly divided society, people of all political persuasions believe the channel is partisan. The left and right both hate it. Hardline Scottish nationalists and hardline Brexiters detest the BBC. It's either part of a treacherous pro-union conspiracy, or in league with Brussels. After the criticism Boris Johnson rightly got for dodging tough interviews during the general election, the Prime Minister seems ready to come for the BBC's licence fee now. There's speculation about it being replaced with an opt-in subscription model like Netflix. Of course, given that this is Britain in 2020, the debate around the BBC's future will degenerate into yet another front in our endless culture wars and produce much heat but little light, like a 1950s TV set. One side will say that any threat to the BBC will see Britain's media landscape turn American, with right-wing propagandists fronting channels like Fox News. The other side will say the BBC is unfairly propped up by taxpayers to the detriment of other media outlets, skewing British cultural life. The future of the BBC will be determined on purely political grounds, which is very strange. The BBC must be the only media institution in any democracy which is judged by a political yardstick. Everything else in the media landscape, radio. For more on this story, visit the news article link.